Welcome back to RERE 6022, Pemikiran Social tentang Kajian Etnik, or Social Theories in Ethnic Studies. In today's lecture, we'll get to the origins of sociology itself, or what we call theoretical thinking in sociology. We'll go through the origins of sociology from the Enlightenment philosophers and their theories, to classical sociology, and then to the American sociology, which is structural functionalism and symbolic interactionism, and finally, contemporary sociology. So the Enlightenment was a philosophical movement that started from European intellectuals' efforts to break away from the control of the church prior to the 1600s in most of Europe. What they believed was that in order for society to progress, scientific inquiry should take over theological ways of explaining the world. So basically, the Enlightenment was a movement whereby you had scientists, philosophers, and other intellectuals coming together to try to conceptualize society in the same way the positivists viewed it, which is to come up with a series of general laws to understand the mechanisms of society, and to see how it could progress through scientific thinking. To give you a brief example of who these scientists and thinkers were during the Enlightenment, or the European Enlightenment, you could think of people like Isaac Newton, who developed theories about gravity, or Galileo Galilei, who studied the solar system. And this was also called the Scientific Revolution. This also saw the invention of many things, many objects that you could say paved the way for technological advancements much later on, like the scientific method, the telescope, the microscope, and you had the printing presses during the Gutenberg Revolution. So there were three main precepts that the Enlightenment thinkers believed in. So in talking about general laws, what they believed was that the universe is governed by natural rather than supernatural law. They also believed that the scientific method can answer all fundamental questions in all areas, and that the human race can be taught to improve or to achieve infinite improvement, as Mills and Woods 1996 put it. These Enlightenment ideas can also be summed up in what Descartes said in the 1700s, in that I think, therefore I am. So much of the classical sociological theorists developed their ideas as a result of being inspired by the Enlightenment thinkers, because they too believed that society could be reformed and that humans could be trained to think further and embrace the scientific method to improve their own life chances. Other important thinkers during the Enlightenment include Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, Hume, Kant, and Bentham. And their contribution largely revolved around trying to answer the question of how is society held together, very much like what we covered in the first week about what is the glue that holds society together, or the problem of social order. So that's where Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau developed social contract theory as a way to explain the mechanism of social order. Ultimately, the Enlightenment was concerned with equality, scientific inquiry, and empirical knowledge in order to solve social problems that lead towards the concentration of power or inequality. Hence, sociology's foundation can be found in the rational empiricism of the Enlightenment, as well as the political, economic, and social upheaval and socio-political change of 19th-century Europe. So, intellectuals like Herbert Spencer, Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, and Georg Simmel developed the basic points of sociology to help explain the social change they saw around them, as quoted by D'Antonio, 1992. Spencer, in particular, believed that societies moved from simple to complex. It is often associated with Charles Darwin, but it really came from Herbert Spencer originally. So, Spencer was thus described as a functionalist because he believed that social structures function to meet the needs of society. Therefore, social structures or institutions themselves can be considered as a kind of independent variable that has an impact upon individuals' behavior, which would be the dependent variable. And as a result, we can see later how Durkheim himself was influenced by this theory when he talked about collective conscience. Likewise, Rousseau felt that oppression and inequality were created when private property was concentrated in the hands of a few. So it's very much like the origins of capitalism. So Rousseau also believed that people were shaped by both nature and society, and that nature is actually a better teacher or a better influence than education or society in general. We can also see his impact upon the theories of Karl Marx much later on. We call contemporary sociology because in the late 20th century, there was a little break away from the Enlightenment objectives in sociology. While the Enlightenment focused very much on social structure, contemporary sociology focused more on individual agency, or rather a blend of both. So we'll come to that much later in the course.